cabinet table, put this issue squarely at the front and center. How do we support Black families in Ontario so that they too can achieve their full potential, full inclusion, and be supported in really the aspirations of every family, that they and their children can succeed. So welcome, Michael Koto.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nancy. It's wonderful to be here today. Thank you so much for having both of us. I get to sit next to Mitzi, right behind the program, the finance minister in the legislature. And we sit at cabinet together, and we're constantly looking for ways to better support families in the communities that we love. And often in cabinet, we're arguing, putting forward issues that we think are important to the communities we represent. So I just want to say thank you, Mr. Hunter, for being a true champion for our community in the legislature and cabinet, but also here in Ontario. Thank you so much, Mitzi, for what you do every single day. It's interesting, as I was driving here this morning, I was thinking about, my father and my mother. My father's he's 79 years old, he's turning 80 this year. Yeah. And my mother is 72, and, I think about the way in which, they raised me and the trouble we gave them as three boys. We gave them lots of trouble. And I can just remember little tiny things. As I was driving here, I was thinking about some of the challenges my father had to go through, we would say, we'd say, Daddy, we're from Grenada, so we say, Daddy, I want to go to a sleepover. He'd say, boy, why do you need to go to a sleepover? You have your own bed here. He'd say that to me all day. What do you mean? Or little tiny things like I'd say in the morning, I'd grab my toast or sandwich to go, to eat on the way. He said, no, you have to sit down and eat. You can't walk with your food. He'd always say these little things to me. But, going back to Grenada, my father's from an island called Carriacou. There's 7,000 people on the island. And all of them, it's a former slave colony, and everyone's from Ghana. There were seven plantations there. And you think about, the passing of information and parenting skills generation after generation, on those little tiny things. My father doesn't say I love you often, but he expresses it in very different ways. So I just, coming here, I was thinking about my father and my mother and everything they went through to help raise us. Which brings us to why we're here today. I just want to say thank you so much, Charity. Thank you so much to the organization for doing what you do to help families, because it is hard being a parent in Toronto today, in Ontario, and Canada, in fact, anywhere in the world, because there's so much pressure and so many external influences that take place. For example, social media. The influence of social media, or just the influence of other elements coming into, penetrating your door and coming into your house, is such a role in the way in which you want to raise your children. I have a neighbor who knocked on my door, probably about last year, and said, Michael, he's a newcomer. He's been in Canada for probably about, I would say, maybe a few years. He knocked on my door and said, Michael, I need your help. And I said, what's going on? He said, there were three boys. They came to my door and they asked for my daughter. And I said, okay, well, what happened? And he said, come with me. And I thought, I'm going to go with him, because he was going to look for these boys. And I said, well, what happened? He said, they knocked on my door, and his daughter's about 15, 16 years old. He said they were asking for her. And so I went into the car with him. We started driving. The boys were, 2 blocks away. I said, listen to me, before we get out of this car, I want to tell you that if a 15-year-old boy knocks on the door for a girl, it's something that is socially acceptable. And he said, what do you mean? I said, don't go out of this car and wanting to fight this boy. And I said, you have to promise me that, and let me keep speaking. And he said, okay. And I calmed him down, we went out. I said, why did you knock on the door? He said, we wanted to say hello, she goes to our school. Do you know the girl? And he told me the name. I said, okay, come back into the car. I do him, I said, listen, you know, you need to talk to your daughter. If she needs to set rules, it's not the boys who are just boys knocking on doors. Just tell your daughter that maybe the boys should not feel free to just knock on the door when they want. So those are some big challenges for a father who's just come to the country. These boys, I don't know what he thought they were going to do. So, you know, we're here today because we're putting in support programs to help parents. And, you know, navigating the world today is often very challenging. You know, I'm a father of 2 girls. My daughter recently said to me, I'm sorry, I have allergies. I'm not crying. I have allergies. My daughters, you know, one is 12 years old and one is 8 years old. And, you know, even me, like, you know, I have a very, you know, supportive family, you know, grandparents, and they have uncles and aunts. You know, it's challenging. A 12-year-old, you know, recently told me that, you know, she wants to make her own decisions. And I said to her, well, you can decide how much you're going to pay yourself in your allowance. And pay yourself if you want to start making your own decisions. I said it's a compromise. We'll start to build up the decision-making abilities, but you have to understand that we need to do this together. So it's challenging for even me. And I think I have all these supports and all this advice around me. So, you know, I know that there are some parents out there that, you know, that don't have that type of support, that don't have the uncle or the next door neighbor they can rely on. So, you know, to build ways to provide better supports, I think is something that's quite important for our community. Today, I'm so pleased to announce the recipients of the funding under the Black Youth Action Plan. This is a $1.1 million investment into these organizations to help support families in their communities. And it's part of a larger fund, which is a $47 million fund that didn't exist a year ago. You know, this was a new fund that Mitzi Hunter, myself, and others advocated for. We thought that it was necessary because we noticed that you know, a lot of the funding mechanisms out there provide money, and it's, you know, 2 years, 3 years, and then you're fighting for the money again. We wanted to put in place a more structured method to collaborate and work together. And so far, we have almost 75 organizations. Is that the right number now, Sean? 75 organizations that are receiving money. Over 50 of them, I think it's around 54, never had a relationship with the provincial government before. These are Black, you know, African-Canadian-based organizations working in communities like this that are building a relationship with the provincial government for a long-term relationship built on something we call the collective impact. So there's an obligation now for these 75 organizations in Windsor, Hamilton, Toronto, Ottawa, where over 85% of our Black youth reside, and that's the only eligible jurisdiction that can receive this money. These are organizations that are now starting to collaborate with each other. There are organizations in Toronto that never had relationships with organizations in Ottawa or Windsor. They're working together. So when we talk about parenting programs, when we talk about best practices, there's the ability now through a collective impact model to work together. This is one of the pieces that Mitzi Hunter, myself, and others identified as one of the challenges in our community. We often work in isolation. And I say like our community, but our community is made up of so many communities, right? There's different elements within our communities, cultural traits, languages, religions. You know, we need to recognize that, but at the same time, understand that, you know, the challenges that face our community aren't like other communities in many ways. We face probably one of the harshest forms of racism, systemic racism, anti-Black racism, that's built into North American culture that we are. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of those organizations because, you know, it's a different approach. The organizations are going into the community and working directly in the community, just like this. And